What's up everyone? Echo here. Today we will be making a quick Poutine with chicken, some mushrooms and onions, garlic, all that fun stuff. So first things first, I'm going to cut up an onion. I just got one because I'm cooking for myself. So what you want to do with this onion is just cut the end off right there, like that. Watch your fingers, people. Watch your fingers. Always have like a claw grip, you know, and then your knuckle here kind of protects you from the blade. So after that, we're just going to cut that onion in half at the root, like that. Then what I like to do for these kind of onions anyways is cut off that root end, and we're going to be making some crescents, some very thin onion crescents, which cook very nicely. So you're just going to take off that peel like so. And the way I like to go around this one is I start on one end kind of on an angle, and I just kind of slice in there like that, and I go like that the whole way around. And then when it gets around there, you can kind of turn it and just finish that off. And that way you have all these little crescents. So I'm going to finish chopping up this onion here, and we'll move on to the other parts of this recipe. Not really a recipe, it's more like cooking a couple things and then putting it together. Sometimes your onions like to be little poop holes and not peel in one beautiful little skin. Anywho, always keep a garbage can close to your station. It makes it so much easier for cleanup. Anyways, gonna move these onions out of the way, and again, hold your knife like this, you know, right there. And then the rest of your hand can wrap around. And that way you have the best control over your knife. And then again, when you get to this end part here, you can just turn it and finish it off. And that is the onions, all nicely cut, all around the same thickness. Consistency is what we're looking for. We're just going to take those and put them in a bowl for now. And then we'll just put those off to the side for when we need them. Next thing we're going to do is garlic, because garlic goes good in everything, right? Everyone has their own way of doing garlic. There's a fast way, there's an efficient way. I just like to cut it. I don't care how it's done. If you really want to do it fast, you know, you can just crush it and then chop it up after. Me, I like slicing it up into really thin pieces and then chopping it. So I'll show you with this little bulb right here. Clove, I guess I should say. So a little brown end there, just chop that tiny little guy off. And then peel that little sucker. There we go. So here I basically just cut into it lengthwise a few times, flip it, do the same thing, and then that's when I turn it and I go to slice it. And you get all these little beautiful pieces of garlic. So we'll check back in. And there we have the garlic all chopped up. Fairly small. We're not going too small with this because that's just my preference. You can go as small as you want. But I like being able to have and see little chunks of garlic in my food. Like an idiot, I forgot to hit record again. But I just have a bunch of mushrooms here. We got the regular white mushrooms, like button mushrooms, some shiitakes, and we got some oyster mushrooms over on this side. We're gonna grill those with the onions and then put it all together after. And I like to keep things a little bit separate before I start cooking it. So over here, I have my sliced onions. In this little plastic shot glass, I have my garlic waiting to be cooked. And yeah, we should be just about ready to go. I have just some regular frozen fries here. We're gonna use those because I just wanted it to be a quick recipe. I didn't want to have to brine my potatoes and stuff like that and make fries from scratch. At least not this time. So these are just gonna go in the oven at 450 for like 15 minutes, and then they'll be ready. Halfway through, I'll start cooking the chicken over here on this pan. This pan is for my onions and mushrooms. And I have a pot back there for my gravy, and we'll get started on that. So while those fries are in the oven, you can, enjoy yourself a nice beer. I went with IPA for this one. So cheers. Also look at all those mushrooms. We got whites over here. We got the shiitakes here. And some oyster mushrooms all the way on the end. Not too many, just enough to have a little bit of variety. So now that the oven's at 450, we're just putting those boys in there, letting them cook. About halfway, we're gonna jingle them up a little bit and start on that chicken. Now we're on to the chicken. Got some room temperature chicken over here. And usually if you have like a lot of sinew, stuff like that, you'd want to trim it up, but this one seems to be like it's doing all right. So let me rinse off my hands here. All right. What I am going to do for seasoning is just a simple, very, very simple seasoning. We're going to use hot paprika. We're going to use, and this is a little bit of a surprising one, celery salt. Not many people that I know use it. We're gonna use some Hibachi Seasoning over here. There's no label because I ripped it off a while ago. That's just recipes. But this stuff's pretty good. Has a smoky flavor. And some oregano. And of course, salt and pepper. For salt, I'm using some sea salt and just regular black peppercorns, which never forget to refill your pepper mill, because who knows when you might be filming a cooking video. Whew, that was a sound. So I'm gonna just refill this guy. And when you're handling chicken, you'll definitely want to rinse your hands quite often, especially if you're seasoning it, because you're gonna be touching it with the seasoning, then you're gonna be touching this, flipping it around, touching it again. No bueno. So we'll start with our seasoning. Put a little bit of pepper on there. I like a lot of pepper, to each their own. So we got that. Got some hot paprika. Opening it on the small side so I can just sprinkle that on there. Oops, that's gonna be a red little guy. Some oregano, and normally I would save oregano for the end because herbs tend to burn really quickly. But we're also gonna be cooking this chicken pretty quickly too, so kind of evens out. Hibachi seasoning, this stuff is awesome. Makes everything taste like it just came off of an actual grill and not a non-stick frying pan. Got the celery salt. And our sea salt. Sea salt can sometimes get clumpy, so I just give it a little shake before I'm about to use it, and then season it generously. Pat that all in there and turn it around and repeat. I'm gonna rinse my hands because don't want to get chicken juice everywhere. Especially if you're touching things again. Like I have a beer here too, so if I go and grab my beer, I'm a little bit screwed. Okay, so again, pepper. I like lots of pepper. I like lots of pepper, guys, so don't be alarmed that there's so much pepper going on there. Sea salt. Not too much sea salt because I am using salted butter, so usually you're supposed to use unsalted butter, but this is salted. You use unsalted because that way you can gauge afterwards how much salt to put in, you know? It gives you a little bit more creative freedom, I guess. So we got our seasonings all here. Hibachi. This is some awesome stuff. I don't remember where I got this, but if somebody can find this specific seasoning, it's called Hibachi Seasoning. If somebody can find it and tell me where it is, I will gladly go and get some because I love that stuff and I'm almost out. So that's all the seasonings. Just gonna pat that in again. And at the end, you should have this very nicely seasoned piece of chicken. Rinse off my hands again. And then we'll get into the cooking. Forgot to film it again, but over here we have some water, concentrated beef stock, some regular beef stock, brown sugar, oregano, salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. And this is gonna reduce down into my gravy for the poutine. That I am gonna put it at low medium for now, just to let it heat up. Once it starts boiling, I'm gonna put it on low and reduce that. We'll get back to that once it's boiling. Now, forgive the dirty oven, the dirty stove, but I was cooking last night too. Haven't had a chance to clean up. Anyways, here we have two pans. We got this pan, non-stick, for the chicken. Stainless steel pan over here for my onions and mushrooms, and those are gonna cook in the same pan. And let's get to that now. So since we have both pans here, I'm just gonna actually turn both elements on. Might as well start cooking both of them at the same time. Chicken one is gonna be around medium high. I'm gonna put the stainless steel at around the same temperature. And they are both gonna be getting some olive oil. Use whatever olive oil you have. I tend to save my better olive oil for like salads or anything that doesn't get cooked. Because then if you're going to be using really good olive oil, you want to taste it, right? So there we have the oil heating up. On the stainless steel one, I'm actually going to be throwing in that little bit of butter because that's what I'm going to be frying the onions and mushrooms in. Knife over here. Chop off a little knob of butter. And that is just going to be plopped right in. Bam. The reason that you use oil as well as butter, if you're using butter, is butter tends to burn very quick. So you want something with a higher smoke point. That way you don't burn off the butter, but you still get the flavor of it. So in this case, I'm using butter and olive oil. And yeah, so now that our pan for the chicken is heated up, go over to the stove. Now that we got some hot oil, we're just gonna drop our chicken in, and when you drop it in, you should hear a sizzle. Just like that. Very soft sizzle. I'm just gonna put in this small piece that fell off anyways. That's, you know what we call that? We call that the chef's piece. We gave those fries a little bit of a jingle jangle. I like my fries crispy, so we're gonna keep them in just a little bit longer, and we'll get back to that chicken and onions. Here we got the butter and oil bubbling up, so I can just toss in those onions. And these are gonna go down in size a lot over the next couple minutes. So by the time those start to settle down a little bit, I'm gonna add in the mushrooms. That's going. These guys are gonna reduce a little bit. Once the chicken is done, I'm gonna take it out and let it rest a little bit. And then everything from this pan is gonna go into that one. So it's gonna cook in that chicken and chicken juice, I should say. It's gonna cook in the fond, and it's gonna turn out really nice. So let's get back to that. For the sauce, we got it bubbling over here. What I did was add a cornstarch slurry, so that's just a little bit of cornstarch and water, mix it up and then add it. And that just helps to thicken it up. We have our chicken finished. Nice crust on the outside. That's gonna be real good once it's cut up. We have our onions almost done, so what I'm gonna do is just add that into the pan where the chicken was. It's all gonna cook in its own juices. And now is when I'll add all those mushrooms in. We're gonna cook those off, get all the moisture out of there, and then season. So this is just gonna be simple, salt and pepper, soften them up a little bit, and then we can start plating. As far as flipping goes, you can use tongs, you can use a fork. Maybe not a fork because it's a metal pan, but really what you're doing is bringing it down a little bit, and then you toss them up, and then you kind of bring the pan back. So it's kind of just this circular motion. So I'm gonna let those cook off a little bit. That should be about just a couple minutes, really. Just a couple minutes. Season them right at the end, and then we'll start plating because this sauce is looking like it's ready to go. Oh yeah, that's looking like it's ready to go. So now the seasoning part, one thing I just decided I'm gonna do, just add a little bit of pizzazz, I guess. I'm gonna add some balsamic glaze to it. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot. It's a really tiny amount, and then we're gonna get that in there, get it all caramelized, and it's gonna be awesome. Pepper, always. And with most things that you cook, you're gonna wanna season and taste as you go, just about every step of the way. So if you just put the chicken in, don't taste it right away. You know, it's still raw. So get that pepper all in there. Season with some salt now. Not too much, because remember, we're using salted butter. But just let these guys roast a little bit. And I'll bring you over here so you can see the results. That's what the mushrooms and onions are looking like right now. Lots of color, lots of flavor, some caramelization going on with those onions. A little bit of charring on the mushrooms. That's exactly what we're looking for. And that sauce is darkened up, it's thicker now. I think it's time to move on to plating. So now we're back for the plating portion. I'm gonna turn the heat off on all these. Mushrooms and onions are all cooked through. Gravy is ready to go. And normally I'd plate on this kind of shallow, wide bowl because I like the way those look. But today we're just gonna go with a regular plate. Got this big boy right here. First things first, I'm gonna cut up this chicken. I'm gonna put this plate off to the side for now. And I'll grab my knife. And I think the way I want this to be, just for presentation's sake, I'm gonna cut it in strips. So let's see how that goes. Oh yeah. Some perfectly cooked chicken. And like I said, this is just a very simple, quick recipe. You know what? I'm actually gonna cut that in half. There we go. Yeah, so like I said, it's just a quick, simple recipe. You know, how you can make your own kind of gourmet poutine at home. So, we're gonna move on now. Gonna get all this off to the side and dry off our cutting board so that I can put the plate here. There we go. Let's move this knife out of the way. So, plate right there. I don't have an oven mitt, but if you have a rag, it'll work too. Gonna put some fries onto the plate. I'm gonna try and get them relatively flat. Unlike a lot of restaurants, you'll want height, because at a lot of places like that, height equals flavor, apparently. No, that's a lie. It's more for the visual thing. If something looks tall, then you think you're getting more because it looks bigger. So we got our fries over here. Now I'm gonna take these tongs and take these gorgeous mushrooms and onions and put them all over this plate of fries. There we go. I like a lot of mushrooms, so I'm gonna put just a little more. Okay, there we go. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some cheese. So here I just have some average, Tex-Mex cheese. My favorite cheese is really like an old cheddar, like a 2-year-old cheddar. But it doesn't need to be too complex. It's gonna be covered in gravy anyway. So top that with some cheese. Use however much you like, to each their own. I'm gonna use about that. And I'm one of those cooks that I cook with feel. I don't like measurements too much. I go by eye very often. You can do whatever you want. So here we have our gravy, and it thickened up pretty nicely. And we're just gonna pour that over the top. And what you wanna do is you wanna try and get it everywhere without drowning the fries too much. You don't wanna start eating your food and everything's already soggy. That's no bueno. So, gravy on, and I like to use the help of my handy dandy knife. Just slide it underneath there. Be careful of your hand, and you can lift everything at once. And that is my Homestyle chicken, mushroom, and onion poutine. We'll get some more good shots of that from the top. There is the finished product. Got our crispy fries, mushrooms and onions, some cheese melting action going on, gravy, and that chicken on top. Now this is looking good. So again, this was Echo. I'm gonna be posting a lot more cooking videos, a lot more. I have a lot of ideas in the works. This was just something quick that I threw together tonight just to put a video out there to kind of introduce my channel. From now on, I'm thinking, or I'm hoping at least, I think every Friday or Saturday should be a good video done. A lot of people who are going to be watching this know my real name, but for the purposes of YouTube and wanting to create a new social identity, I'll be going by Echo. So that's it. Bon appetit. If you end up making something like this, you can enjoy it yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.